Dave and I, we've judged 19 of them. I did all 20, and Dave and I have done 19 together. And we always evaluate and we assess. I say this every year, but it's very much a labor of love. Love Duke Ellington's music, of American music, of our culture, of a way of playing, a way of life, and that's the spirit that we come at it with. And when we're discussing things, we talk about, we think as if every person in here is our kid. Every director, we're directing. Every parent, we are parents. So we take it very seriously, but we come at it with love. And we also always want to teach that we're all an extension of one another. It's not like competition in athletics where you can imagine you play for some city and your city wants to beat another city. In our music, if you play in another city, we love you even more. Look at this man, I'm not mad at this city. I'm happy he's out here because we're all trying to raise the level of culture and feeling in our country, and it's a job that will take all of us. So, in that spirit, that's where we come at this. Dave is going to speak first about some of the things he heard and whatever he wants to impart to y'all, and then each of us will take a turn just speaking briefly about whatever they want to talk about.
Well, I don't know if I've told this story before, so maybe some of you have heard it, but 20 some odd years ago, Winton came over for dinner one night, and after dinner, we talked about how we could make an impact on jazz education. And he said, well, it has to be repertoire based. And I totally agreed. And he said, we got to get your transcriptions of Ellington music into the high schools. I said, well, they're not interested. He said, I said, they won't buy them. They don't buy them from the publishers. And he said, well, we'll give it to them. And I said, I don't even think they'll want it then. And he said, well, we'll have a competition. Everybody wants to win. And I said, well, okay, let's do it. You know, and I thought, well, it's going to be really sad. No one's going to be able to address this music. They never listened to it. Ellington was so out of style, you know. No one was interested in this music. Well, little by little, it got better every year. And this year, we leaped way beyond. This was incredibly moving. To hear high school bands playing The Tattooed Bride, 2 bands played that piece. I mean, no college bands play music like that, you know, on that level of, I mean, that's like playing a Brahms symphony, you know, it's like, we haven't addressed that in jazz, and now it's happening. And all the bands that came out and played with, you know, from memory, the music gets internalized. When you play from memory, it's internalized, so it's your music. When you're reading it off a page, it's somebody else's music that I'm trying to deal with. But when it's inside you, that's a great thing. And to play a piece as intricate as The Tattooed Bride from memory, that's just unbelievable to me. There's no professional bands in the world that have done that. Duke Ellington, his band didn't even play it from memory. That's how great this is, what happened for the 2 bands that did that. I mean, I'm knocked out. So here's the thing. Every year it comes down to some bands are stronger on soloists, some bands are stronger on their ensemble playing. The goal is to have both. The Duke Ellington Orchestra had both. Count Basie Band had both. All the other bands, back in the era, all the other bands, they didn't have the soloists on the level of those 2 bands, because those guys, they had first dibs on all the great soloists. You know, there weren't that many Lester Youngs to go around, or Ben Websters, you know. So those bands, they had first dibs. And so those are when we listen to those bands, we go, that's what we want to be like. We want to have both those components. So for those, you know, some of the bands here were better on the ensemble, and some were better on the soloing. And so whichever one that you're stronger at, work on the part that you're weakest at. In fact, that's the advice I always give to everybody who wants to be a musician. Don't practice the stuff you're good at, practice the stuff you're not good at. That's how you get better and you become great, because you have to be great at everything. You know, if you have a lot of technique but you have a terrible sound, work on your sound. Okay, so for something that really affected the bands, and it was very noticeable. One of the bands, the bass player did not use an amplifier, and it enabled the whole band to play at a dynamic level where they could get a blend, and they didn't have to play loud, and everything was in balance. As soon as you turn on that amplifier, it makes the whole band out of balance. Something to think about. So it means that bass players are going to have to work on getting the sound, you know, and you know, more ping and more sound. But it's really worth it. It's all the old band. When I saw Duke Ellington's band, I guess it was probably the first time I saw that band in the late '60s. Now everybody was using amplifiers, but then not his band. His bass player played acoustically, and it was perfectly in balance. You could hear every note. So I know it's going to be a stretch, but I really encourage you to do that, because it'll really improve the sound of the ensemble and the swing. Also, bass players should be conscious about when you're walking. If when the band is loud, you want to be down on the bottom. When the band is soft and light, you need to be up on the top, because if you're on the bottom and the band is trying to play light, you're fighting the band. A lot of times, you know, the rhythm sections were not really supporting what was going on in the band, and the band was not playing with the rhythm section. We're all a part of the same team. We have to hook up. And of course, the bass player and the drummers always got hook up, but the whole band has to hook up into their, you know, you play in the rhythm of the drummer and the bass player. They set the time, and everybody's got to lock into that and keep it there. Steady time is really important. Some of the bands, you know, there were problems in keeping it steady, and a lot of times that happens from one section of a piece to another. Like when we're doing rockin' and rhythm, and right there it always slows down. One band didn't slow down. It was really great. But even professional bands, they get to that spot, it slows down. So just be aware that it's the joints in the music that you gotta make the transition from one thing. Like when you get to letter B, you know, going in the first bar of letter B, things change. So everybody's got to shift gears together and keep that consistency. That's really important. I just want to thank everybody, because this is my only chance to talk to everyone. So I just want to say, man, you make me very happy.
I just want to say that this should be a very, very proud moment for all of you, because what you demonstrated on the stage today and yesterday were things that you're going to take with you for the rest of your lives. These are experiences that are life-altering, and the kind of joy and the kind of camaraderie I saw and I witnessed when you performed is something that you can carry with you for the rest of your careers, and you should be very, very proud of yourselves. And there was so much connection. The connection that you made on stage when you're playing as a group is very, very important, because these are connections that you're going to learn how to continue to make throughout your lives. And you might think that this is just, you know, something that you just did as a part of a competition, but think about how deeply you've affected everyone in this room. I mean, there were some moments that were so just emotionally moving from what you demonstrated musically on the stage. I don't even know that you realize the impact of it. You will one day. When you look back, you'll realize just how deeply you've impacted each other in your lives. And the music, the way that the music is communicated, the way that you communicated with each other on stage is really, really important. Many of you were able to get eye contact with each other in the rhythm section. When that happened, things started to gel better. You started to have a better sense of time, better sense of swing, better sense of groove. Well, you know, throughout life, when you connect with people and you look at people and get the internal feeling that you get from them. Maybe that will help you in your further careers as you try to like develop a sense of communication. Because music communication translates to everything. You communicate musically, you also can communicate with your hearts, your spirits, and your minds. So the level of this music requires such a high degree of intellect as well. So I want to commend everyone on there, just the ability to convey the level of sophistication of this music today and yesterday. I mean, what you did was very, very extraordinary. Yes, you played the music. Yes, you played the notes. But there are things that go beyond the notes. Your directors have worked with you throughout the year, just getting you in shape for this performance. But think about the impact you're having on your lives and on the lives of everyone here. I mean, from a technical standpoint, we can look at the notes that you played. They're all very important. The chord progressions that you played are very, very important. But you know, the spirit of the music is very, very important. And the attitudes that you convey when you play this music are all very, very important. I just want to make sure that we don't forget that. And Duke Ellington, I mean, the artistry that he brought to the world is something that you are helping to continue. It's a continuum. So think about the fact that you are an important part of this continuum. You have a very, very specific and a very special role in it. And you should all be very, very, very proud of the fact. Also, you've worked incredibly hard, level of integrity that you've demonstrated today, just playing the music itself. When it was memorized, you could even see, you know, the amount of integrity that was conveyed when you solo, when you improvised. Many of you approached the music with a level of maturity that is well beyond your years. It really, really moved me emotionally to watch you do that. Continue that intensity in everything you do, and love everything you do. Find the joy in everything you do, because I saw a lot of joy in the music that you played, you brought. A lot of you communicated that. That's important. It's the emotions that you communicate in the music as well. So I just want to commend everybody. You should be very, very proud of yourselves no matter what happens today. Be very, very proud. This is a moment that you'll remember for the rest of your lives. And I'm very, very proud of everybody in the room, all of you who performed. Thank you.
All right. You know, I was 20 years ago. I was sitting on that other side, and it was out. There was 7 bands when it started. So we got 15, 16 now, 15. So the level of playing has gone extremely high from when we started. But what I want to let you know is that there were many members of the band that we started in high school that are out here playing, you know, professionally. They're out here, and I want everyone to know that you all have that opportunity too. You know, just because you don't make a certain section or you don't make something doesn't mean that it will stop you from being who you want to be or play where you want to play at. Everyone here is a winner. And I'm going to give you a scenario of what went down as a judge. This is my first time judging it. You know, I used to check you guys out from the back and check out the judges from the back and from the clinics that we used to do. So it's not easy. You know, I just noticed how hard it is. Because you get into a groove, you know, you see the first couple bands, you're like, oh, it's a piece of cake. But then you start seeing how good the levels are. And then you start saying, wow, you know, I don't know how to do this. Or what should I do, guys? You know, what am I going to do? So it is very difficult. And the one thing that I could tell you that I noticed up here, you know, and it's unbelievable how much these guys love you, because every time we refer to you students, we call you like our kids, like if you were our kids. And, you know, now I'm 35. If I was young, I would laugh at it, you know. But now that I have my own kids, I could actually feel that being a judge and understanding as a director, comparing them to your parents, students as being your kids, you know. And there was a moment yesterday where about 3 of us were actually crying, tearing up. It was out. And, you know, it's just out, you know, how you feel that stuff. I just want you to understand that this competition is just more than just notes, you know. It's more about the sacrifices that these guys made years ago and the stuff that was lost, that now, because we have the ability, we could bring back and just give some honor to it and prolong our lives musically in a certain way. It doesn't have to be jazz, but just the honor that you have to respect a certain style that was born here in America and something that you could give back, which is very unbelievable. And deliberating in the room was unbelievable. I never seen these guys fight before. To see David and Jeff on the floor, David had Jeff on a headlock. No, it's crazy. You know? And let me tell you something. I want you to know that Dee had high heels, and she doesn't have them. Now, if somebody has a nasty mark on their head, I'm not going to tell you who. But I'm joking. It wasn't like that. But so let me get technical just for a quick second. Mr. Berger explained a lot about the bass issues. You know, we're at an age where technology is very advanced, okay? Amplifiers are out. Of course, it's much easier to play a bass through an amp. It's easier on your hands. You don't get hurt. If you do it the wrong way, you can get hurt. I understand that. However, the style of music that Duke Ellington is around and what it's about does not apply when there's an amplifier. And because of that, when you work on your sound as a bass player, the rhythm section takes a certain shape that is very unexplainable. And the band takes a certain shape because then they have to be forced to listen to you, regardless if you don't have a big sound. Because that's a separate identity that you have to deal with as a musician. You have to work on your sound because when you're home with your instrument, that's the only thing that you're playing and you're used to your sound. So you guys got to understand that in certain situations, you have to deal with what the actual historical sound is about, you know? And when you start changing stuff, it starts changing things and it makes things different than what it is. So bass players, concentrate on your sounds. You know, I know we had rentus. Some of you are not used to playing the rentus. That's an obstacle. Trust me, I know. I just came from a month tour where I had rentus in some of the cities, and it was the first time in my life that I actually had to deal with it. And I understand. You got to get over it, and you have to figure out a way of where the sweet spots are on the bass. And wherever those sweet spots are, you're going to have to play them. And you got to know where the mic setup is, too. Dave Robinson is back there trying to make you sound the best as possible, but if the mic is not close to the bass, not close to the bridge, not close to the F-hole, you're not going to be heard. One thing, before I finish, I want to let you guys know is that at a certain point in this deliberation, we have to go back to tapes. And that's when it really hurts, because one thing is visualizing the band and feeling the vibe, and you're all in and you're like, wow, these guys are killing. And when you get to the room and you're listening to the actual tape of you guys playing, then you start really hearing, wow, this is that, the bass is not close, wow, the amp, you know, then you start really saying, okay, now let's figure this out. So that's something that I want you guys to understand. And in your life, when you go record, when you do gigs, remember, when you get documented, the gig itself is just one time, but that documentation will stay for life. So just know that, you know, I love everything you guys are doing. You guys are making me proud. And, you know, I hope to see you guys again in a professional setting and in this setting. And may the best man win. Thank you.
Dee touched on something very special that none of us can ever forget. And those who have heard me say this before, pardon me, because there are some repeat folks here, but the joy that you first achieve when you reach up and play the first note on the piano when you're 4 years old or whatever, what happens? A big smile comes across your face, and there's nothing better in the world than that. That's where the joy starts. You have to continue that through your entire musical career, whether it stops now, whether it continues, but the focus and the discipline that it requires to get to the point of where you are today is going to help you in anything that you choose to do. That dedication and focus and concentration is something that a lot of people don't have, and that's going to help you in whatever you choose to do, whether it's music or not. Practicing. My best friend of 40 years, John Clayton, calls it the performance room. There's no longer a practice room. Every time you put the instrument to your face, every time you sit down at the instrument, it's now performance time. Get it together in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Don't spend 6 hours practicing the same thing. Concentrate, get it out of the way. Move on to the next thing, you get better quickly. Rhythm sections. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've done this for 5 years, and I thought the rhythm sections this year, as in general, were the best group of rhythm sections that I've heard in 5 years. The first year, I was afraid I was taking some heat because there were no outstanding drummer awards, and I thought that would be my last visit to Lincoln Center. However, I did get support from the other judges, and when you're playing drums in a big band, you've got to provide sound that the band feels like coming into and playing. Mel Lewis told me that he liked to feel like a big, oversized stuffed sofa that the band could sit on when they play. He wanted them to feel that comfortable. Not lay on, but sit on. And I felt a lot of that from the drummers this year, and thank you so much for hitting the cymbal right square in the butt and making it happen. Yeah. Now, don't get overconfident and overdo it, okay? It's just play music. Serving the music is above everything else. It's above winning. It's above your ego. It's above how many notes you play. We all have to serve the music. In the room, we were all serving the music. We were all discussing what needed to be talked about. And the music always won out. It was never about one instrument or one section. It was about what was the final music result of what we just heard. So we always have to serve the music, put the music above everything else. Lastly, we're 5 people up here with opinions. You could put 5 different people up here and maybe get different results, and probably would. You know, these are our opinions of what we heard and how we feel from our experiences that we can share with you. Nobody loses. I didn't make a band my first semester at Indiana University. I didn't quit. Some guy named Peter Erskine beat me out. You know. But you have that desire and that focus to continue and do what you love to do, and don't let anyone stop that. Duke Ellington told me that when I met him in 1971. He said, "You want to do this for a living, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Then don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't."
Well, it's been such a pleasure. Judging with all of the judges is just fantastic. I love sitting next to Jeff. I deserted Berg. I sat next to him for many years, so I got away from him. Jeff is, all of the judges, incredibly attentive. Did a job with a lot of integrity. The last thing I want to talk with you all about, first I want to express my incredible pride. Just unbelievable pride. What could I say? Just to sit up and hear people play with this level of focus and concentration under the pressure of playing. We understand about pressure. Band directors, parents, just to see kids stand up with that level of seriousness. Play that well, co-sign each other, just a little look or glance, work on things. A lot of times you don't play the way you wanted to play. We all know about that. It has more intensity when you're younger. When you get older with experience, you understand. We're playing music. It's not like we're in a war. We make a mistake. We're not going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be here. Our ultimate job is to bring our communities together and to lift people's spirits and their consciousness. So I want y'all to think, when you see everybody you see, like we're one person. They're an extension of you. All the trumpet players are an extension of anybody who played trumpet. Look at our band directors, Jim, Clarence, Scott, Steve. It doesn't make a difference. We've been doing it for a long time. I've been seeing them for years, 20-something years. We've been talking about kids. Long before that, they were teaching. They were growing up. They were kids. They were in bands, wanting to play and teach. It is a part of the same thing. As much as possible, we try to give that to you all. I love the way y'all stand up and root for your colleagues. And you're not small-minded or small as people. Because to be a small person means you're going to live a small life. Be big. You want to know how to make more of something? You got to play the food. You want to make it more than what it is? You got $100. You want to make it worth 1,000? Start sharing it with people. Man, a hamburger goes a long way if it's 3 people eating it. That's just life. And it's a consciousness that our music has in it. It is the consciousness of Duke Ellington. That's why he's so great. It's the consciousness of democracy, which is why we have to invest in our way of life instead of just reducing it to slogans. And this music is a part of it. Not just some slogan about the land of the free and all of that. We're going to make it be free. We're going to continue to participate. And the greatest thing you can do for our way of life is to participate in it, be a part of it, and be urgent and fierce about the way. I have to fight to keep from crying when I see y'all play. Maybe it's just that I'm getting older. I'm serious. Sometimes I have to just do like this. I do. I just look around because there's just so much emotion and feeling that hits me for seeing people struggle with parts and have to stand in front of people under the pressure of their nerves and play with each other and play this very difficult music with the type of feeling y'all are playing with. And to go back 20 years and know how sad the bands were. There's no insult in that. I was sad. I replaced Dave Berger once. He called me as a sub to play for Alvin Ailey when I was 18. I had just come to New York. I never played with a plunger mute. They were like, yeah, this is the boy from New Orleans who can, after I finished playing, they were looking at me like, are you really the guy that we called, or is this an imposter? And Dave came back to the gig and they said, how did the kid do? They said, he don't play as good as you. So we're involved in this. There's no shame in being sad. The shame is in staying sad. That's the shame. So I want to see y'all be larger, whether you won or you lost. And there is a win and a loss because it's a competition. That's life. There's something good about just knowing this is how stuff is. Okay? Was it fair? Maybe it wasn't. I tell them the story that once when I was in elementary school, I knew that I had won the top academic award because I would clean the school. And when I cleaned the school, I would look to see what the grades were in my class. So when they gave the awards, I didn't win the top. So I went to the teacher, who was a nun. I said, but I had the top grade in the class. Why didn't I win the award? She said, well, how do you know you had the top grade in the class? I said, well, I clean the school and I look at the grades every day. And she said, you shouldn't have looked at the grades. That was it. You see? It's not that funny, but that was a fact. Go home. And you know what I did? And I went back home, and that was that. That's the end of that. It's not a movie. That's real life. And that is a fact of winning and losing time immemorial. Be gracious about losing. You're going to lose, not in something like music or competition. This is going to be in life. You're going to lose people. You're going to lose things in your health. I can't even see my music now. If I look back at Ryan, can y'all see that? Is that a G or a D or what is that? Now I understand what Clark Terry was telling me. Be gracious and be big at all times and get bigger. Under duress, be bigger. And if you don't feel bigger, act like you feel bigger and you will get bigger. So in no particular order, tonight, we have one honorable mention band that's not going to be named now, but the 3 that will play and will be announced is Tucson Jazz Institute. I want to also say this was the most difficult year of judging. We listened to a lot of tape. Lexington High School. American Music Program. Okay, I want y'all to give each other a nice round of applause for everybody. Thank you very much. Megan is going to come out and address us. Carlos Enriquez, Dave Berger, Dr. D. Spencer, Jeff Hamilton. Thank you very, very much. We'll see y'all tonight.
Very quickly, the 3 top placing bands should get your instruments and head to the atrium where you'll meet your band host and head to dinner in the VLS recording studio at 5. There you'll receive further instruction on sound check before the concert. All other bands, please clear your instrument storage immediately as nothing can stay here at Frederick P. Rose Hall. We'll see you all tonight at 7:30 for the concert. Thank you.
So we heard the winners, we heard who won, and we're going to be back at 7:30. It's been a great year, 20 years, and we are here with actually someone very important, and he's one of the great, beautiful, special people that make Jazz at Lincoln Center what it is. He does everything for us, and we love him so much. And you've been here this is Ernest Gregory, the great Ernest Gregory. And Ernest Gregory has been looking after bands for the Essentially Ellington for many years, from the beginning, and has been doing it and lifting their spirits and guiding them like he does all over the world. For you doing it now, many years later, how does it still feel for you being around the kids and everything?
It's brand new every year. Brand new. It's a good spirit. It's good to see the quality and level of musicianship out of high school today. The musicians and the music is profound, and they take it seriously. Like Winton said, it's not an easy decision. Even some of the people I expected didn't make it.
There you go.
So you never know. But all were winners by being here.
That's right. That's right.
And it wasn't easy to get this far, but they did. So I acknowledge that. The 15 bands that were performing were 15 winners.